Now at 4 o'clock, having arrived, I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Vallecitos Water Board. And before we begin, would you check your cell phones off or on buzz? And I have the honor of giving the pledge. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Director Evans?
Here.
Director Martin?
Here.
Director Polo?
Here.
Director Hernandez?
Here. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Introductions.
It's about time. But you're teaching me early.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Wonderful.
Good. I will actually start with Chris Muller. He started with the district first, actually, on November 18th in the position of Systems Construction Worker 1. He's actually filling a vacancy that is left over, or that became due to an employee transfer, sorry. And he comes to us from the City of Escondido's Water Department, where he's worked for the last 6 years. In his free time, Chris enjoys drumming, cycling, boating, and family time. Wow.
What kind of a drum do you have, Chris?
Yamaha Pro Series.
A drum?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Did they tell you that we do have uniform service?
No, hey,
They do that to the new employees all the time.
Once a week.
Okay. I love that you came from work.
yeah, I did that. Looks like you're earning your pay. Either that or sleeping on the job. One of the others, I don't quite know. Yes.
Chris, what did you do over at Escondido?
That same line of work. I was in the water department. I read meters, and I was also a technician over there.
Were you a technician one? Do they use the same scale as we do?
It's similar, yeah, the wording's just different, but I was a tech 2 over there.
What's the difference between a tech one and a tech two in qualification?
Experience, mostly.
Time?
Yeah.
Time on the job?
Oh, great.
Great, thank you.
And our second new employee, Thomas Byer. He joined the district on December 2nd in the new position of application specialist. His last position was with MOI Software Solutions, where he worked for 6.5 years. And in his free time, he enjoys traveling, including weekend trips to Baja, and gardening.
Oh.
That's Thomas.
Welcome.
I have to ask, are you into the water-wise gardening now?
Say yes. We are redoing our landscaping right now because I was away for a while and the gardener did not keep up.
When you get it really good, then I'm gonna have to come help me.
Hey.
Well,
I'm working on it.
Or I have to
It's
send my
hard work.
gardener over. He's actually gonna be doing most of it.
Just to check with you
Yes.
on that, Tom.
Director Martin?
And Chris, I'm sorry, HR. Chris, is this an employee for a new position?
This
or
is a new
this
position for this year.
Brand new position that we had budgeted?
Yes. This was the application specialist, and the area that he will work in is to make sure everything we do from one department to another, if we get new software upgrades. Every time you get a new piece of software and you do an upgrade or a patch, as they like to call it, you install the patch and then you find out that the other 37 programs don't recognize the patch. So then you have to go get the patches for all of them, plus make sure everything integrates. So what we've done over the last 4 years probably is we didn't really have a strong IT department. It used to be backflow/IT. Is what it used to be. The meter department took over the backflow. So Carla and her staff, they've been working. So now what it used to be separate IT for operations, separate IT for engineering, separate building, separate treatment plant is now under their umbrella. So basically we took from all the different departments, consolidated into one group. And his is the last position within that group that we looked to fill.
How many people do we now have in IT?
4.
4 full-time employees?
4 full-time. Right. Jonathan, Patrick, Carla, and our newest.
So you're working on this new update? Is that what he's working on?
Every update.
Every update. I thought you just took applications at a desk. It sounded a lot more fun. Glad to have you both on board.
Thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And before we get to item 1.1, the reorganization, I just wanted to take a moment, sure, fine.
Well,
I'm
we were gonna say thank you so much.
Okay, fine, thanks for the support, get out of here.
Jim,
Ed stays, good for you, Ed.
if you never noticed, Jim, if there's no food,
Yeah, no, I do, I get it, I get it. But this is my last meeting as the chair, and I want to thank everyone. I want to thank the general manager, Tom, legal, of course Diana keeps me at least appraised of what I should be doing, the board, the staff. I appreciate all your help all year long. Even when I've screwed up, somebody's been there to catch me. So thank you all very much. Item 1.1, the board reorganization. We've traditionally done, rotation and over and on and re-elections and all this, that, and the other, based on the conversation that's been having here in the area. I would like to make a motion to nominate Director Martin as our board president and Director Podel as our vice president. And
I would like to second that.
and a second, and any discussion along those lines? And then we call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
We vote?
A revote?
We can vote for ourselves?
yes,
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Just like we do in the real election.
Did we all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Okay, very good, thank you. And so with that, I get to toddle on to a seat that is going to be vacated by Director Martin and move my stuff over there.
And as we're doing this, Jim, I understand it's tradition here that there's a book that is given to you highlighting your year here. It's a very thin book.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, there's more than a page?
Yeah, we put a lot of comments in it.
Oh, good.
We don't want the public to see. Congratulations, and personally, thank you very much. My first year on the board, you made it an experience that's been easier for everybody, I'm sure. Thank
It's
you.
been like herding cats. Thank you very much.
No, you can stay right there, Jim.
Jim, if you'd like to move to this seat, you certainly can.
Yeah, well, if you guys want to move, feel free.
We can do it.
Team.
Yeah, we do it later, figure out how you want to do it, that's fine with me.
Well, a very quick speech. Again, thank Jim and the entire board and staff for putting up with me the last year. And hopefully I will do a job this year, but I'll get a thin book for at the end as well. First thing I passed out at the table, reorganization, approving officers and agency representatives. Wanted to make sure everybody's happy with that and go over it very quickly. Some very minor changes, I think. Engineering equipment, I asked Jim Hernandez to step on that with Jim Podel, who's already on it. Finance and investment, Betty Evans, and the other seat will be empty until we have an appointment. I asked an appointment of whoever is coming on in the next month or two to take that. Yeah. The newbie. Legal legislative, Jim Podel was on it. I'd like to keep Jim on it, and again, we put the vacant position, whoever comes up, the newbie on that as well. Public awareness, I'd like for it to be, I'd like to go on that myself, along with Jim Hernandez. ACWA stays exactly the way it is. We don't have a choice in that in any case. Finance is Tom. Aqua Finance Committee is Tom. Aqua Groundwater is Jim. Aqua JPIA. That one, there was a slight change. I talked to Betty last night, and we talked about it, and we're going to make a switch where I'm going to be the delegate, and Betty's going to be the alternate. CASA stays the same with Jim Podel and Betty Evans. And IWA, Jim Podel and Jim Hernandez. And Jim's going to be president, I understand, this year. Hopefully, which is a great position for us to be in. Thank you, and quite an honor. The only other change that I would make is not on this, but I think I do need to make it. We have the SMEDC and the North County EDC, and I'm gonna switch roles with Jim Hernandez. I'm gonna represent on the North County EDC.
Okay.
And he can represent again on the San Marcos EDC.
Okay.
Actually, thank you, Hal. I think there actually, in our book, there's 2 representatives. Do I remember that correct?
For SMEDEC or SNEDEC?
At least for the
I
San
did,
Diego
yeah.
North County.
I thought the level that we paid into allowed 1.
Oh.
Yeah, I think the level we're at allows 1. I'm not sure if the higher corporate level allows more than 1 or not, but at the level we're at, it's 1.
Okay, very
Well, if
good.
you check into it, it is.
I'll look into it and see, and I'll come
Yeah.
back, and if the board wants to change it and sign 2, we can modify that.
Very good.
Yeah, we entered it at the minimum level to participate.
Yeah, we had the
That deal,
Christmas bonus.
that real deal, yes.
application.
Okay, we will make those changes and issue a final, if the board approves them.
Thank you. And then we have our first oral communications, but I see, oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
I would like
Director
to
Evans.
please ask Mr. Podel if you wouldn't mind moving closer, because you feel so
I am.
far away from me.
Wait a minute, why don't you guys, no, I was just kidding.
I could move down there, but
no,
I
no,
don't
I'm
want
fine. I'll move closer.
Thank you, Jim. I could never hear you anyway.
We,
Oh, that's true.
Director Martin, we do need to vote on all these positions to affirm board approval.
Oh, okay, I move that we vote on all the positions. On number 3, approve officers agency.
Second?
The second, I made the motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Perfect, thank you.
Oral communications, there aren't any, I'm assuming, because I don't see any in front of me. That'd be right. Okay, good. Consent calendar. Approval of minutes of the regular board meeting, the warrant list, finance report, final acceptance, San Luis Phase 3. Would ask for a motion.
I move for approval.
A second, and I have a couple of questions to ask, if I may. There we go. On finance. Page 15, item 2.2. We have 2 public employee retirement systems here. One is for the month of November, and the other one is for Rogers. Why would that be separated out for one individual?
The one for November is just our payment to PERS for the regular payroll, and the other one is for an employee who left.
An employee who left.
Yes.
Why are we paying for him if he left?
We're paying the amount that we would have paid. Because the timing of the employee leaving is then just did a separate check for that.
Oh, okay, so that's just a separate check.
Yeah, just to make it
because-
clear for PERS too, 'cause sometimes when you group.
Sort of closing out a water account.
Okay,
Yeah.
makes sense, thank you. So we got one more. Might be 2. San Diego County, and this is page 16, item 2.2. San Diego County Superintendent Splash Lab Project, $655.
He's not here. I mean,
That is Lisa, that's the Splash Lab. That- The mobile splash lab, yeah, where they do the education for the outreach.
Yeah, part of what San Diego County, through the Water Authority, part of the outreach is a mobile lab, and it's called the Splash Lab. And what they do, it'll go from agency to agency and be for school kids. They take it to the schools. We used to host it out front here when we had a blood drive every year, but we don't do the blood drive. The Water Authority, actually, I think it was last month, it was taken to the Water Authority. So what it is a large science mobile lab that is in a big motorhome. And then it has inside of it microscopes, it has the climate models, has computers. So all the water agencies pay for that annual cost of it to go around amongst part of the outreach and education.
Okay.
That would be our share.
Do you know how much use you get of that for that share, or is it?
Betty
apportioned
might have
down,
better.
or-
After I saw it at the Water Authority, they actually have a whole display of it, and they have a whole lot of things that go along with it.
Mhm.
But I believe as we go through the strategy report, it will show in there where it's been used and how many have attended. Normally, though, they'll get 100 or 200 who will come through it. The school districts, normally, it's like we pay the buses for a lot of our field trips, we pay the busing so schools can participate. With the Splash Lab, that's how we take care of the upper grade students, and we give, it's 655 or whatever that amount was for the bus. And then it's open for however many, a whole day or 2 days for the schools to pass through. It's a wonderful opportunity for them, and if you're interested, I know they come out and do a presentation of their whole system, the board. So it's something to put on the agenda down the road, if you're interested. Good question.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then the last question.
Oh.
Usually there's three, you should know the path. 2.2, page 17. Union Tribune advertising, $1,200. Is that advertising that we do to notify people of our meetings? Is that advertising for employment? Is that, what goes into advertising for $1,200?
I'll have Diane address this one.
Those items are legal advertisements, when we
Okay.
have ordinances, and items that come before the board that are related to fees or charges. We have a legal requirement to publish those in a newspaper so that our customers and the public is made aware of those items coming forward to the board.
Okay, so it's strictly legal, there's no,
Yes.
really for employees, that's not?
Yeah, all the rate ordinances that you handled about 3 months ago or 2 months ago, that's what all the
Right.
legal requirements are.
Great. Thank you very much. On this item, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. It's the end of the consent calendar. Now we're going to move to our action items. And the very first action item is 3.1, filling the vacant seat of Director Ferguson.
Yes, excuse me, I'll lead in on this one. As you're aware, because of the vacancy, the board is under a statutory requirement for the government code that's referenced there, is you have a 60-day period from the date of notification that the resignation was effective. Director Ferguson provided the notice to me on the 30th, effective December 1st. So essentially, we have until February 3rd as a 60-day time frame. Included in there is three, and we only reference one in there, but there's 3 15-day notifications we also have to make. I have to notify the registrar of voters by this Friday that there's a vacancy. That's just an administrative thing. The district then, before they can fill the vacancy, bless you, has to post in at least 3 different places for a continuous 15-day period from the date the board acknowledges the notice that's in the board packet today, that there is a vacancy. We would do that in the 2 local papers. We'd have it on the website. Probably look to the city's posting in their lobby. Anywhere we can reasonably reach out, that has to be for a 15-day period. Once that 15-day period has ended, the board then has the opportunity to receive applications, lack of better terms, from anybody interested in it. The board would then receive those, review them, and then deliberate them and allow an interview at a public session. Once that is through the process, if the board chooses one of those individuals to appoint, literally vote on it, they're sworn in, and they're put into office. Again, you have to have that completed by 60 days. Item 5.1, I'll jump ahead to that very quickly if you don't mind, if the chair doesn't mind. Our first board meeting in January falls on January 1st, so obviously that's not going to work. We're going to be considering moving the board meetings to the 8th and the 22nd in January. So what I would suggest is, if the board accepts it, is accept the applications and hold the interviews on January 8th, and then consider an appointment. You do have a little time. If you hear of them on the 8th and you still want to go a little bit further, you could consider it later on the 22nd. You're just starting to push yourself up a little bit against the time frame as to what needs to be done. Once the board does make a appointment, then we have to notify the registrar of voters within a 15-day period of that appointment that we have, in fact, the board has chosen a different one. Because of the timing, we did reference the government code there, and we didn't want to put the whole thing in there. Because the seat vacation was within the first half of the 4-year term, more than 130 days from the next general election, whoever this person is that is appointed, they will be appointed by the board until the November 2014 election. They must then run for the seat. Assuming whoever comes, if they want, yeah. This could be a placeholder. It could be somebody that chooses to run again. That position is now on the ballot in 2014 as an open position. Whoever wins that seat because it's an interim step, again has to run in 2016.
Right.
To get it back on the normal 3-2 progression.
Oh,
So what you'll end up having is 3 board members, seats will be open in 2014 versus the 2. And then in 2016, you'll have 3 open again. So that's how the process goes. So it could be a placeholder, it could be somebody who gets it and runs again, it could be somebody totally separate the second time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, to go over the timeline again, we're looking at, if the timing works for everyone, noticing it starting tomorrow.
Right.
And noticing it through the 2nd of January.
Roughly.
Taking that to due date?
The board, if you wanted to actually give them a little more time, you could. But I think, is that the Friday before?
That's the Thursday before.
That would be good, because then you guys would have through the weekend and then a few days before to review whatever gets turned in. So I would suggest that we receive them by the 2nd.
Okay, then the meeting on the 8th is when we do our open Q&As of the
Interview process.
And we're just gonna require them, there is no formal form for it, they just submit a resume?
Yes.
There's no form. So we have a chance to talk to them then.
Yep.
And then in public, we could make a decision.
Yes.
And/or if some of us needed more time to think about it, you can make the decision on the 22nd.
Yes.
And be within all the time.
Within all your timeframes, yeah. So you do have the time necessary to give yourself plenty of
Thank you.
leeway, in just in case you have more time you need.
Do those dates work for everyone as far as making the changes in January to the board meeting being on the 8th and the 22nd? Those are 2 Wednesdays.
It works for me at the moment.
Okay.
I will not be here on the 22nd, but that's,
If need be, Director Hernandez, because it is a board,
yeah.
pretty important board issue, if the board wanted to, and we knew that, we could move at the 8th. If the board doesn't make a decision, you can just take action to say, let's move it to the 21st,
Are you just
23rd.
missing for that day, or are you missing for?
And I'm gonna be gone from the 21st to the 25th.
Okay, so
So,
we can move
we
it
can move it
earlier.
forward.
It sounds like we have flexibility in
Yeah,
time, yeah.
hopefully we can get it done on
Yeah, I really don't like the timeline just because it's during the holiday season, you know? Yeah. And I wish there was a way to get more time in there. Because I really don't think, you know, just tough for people to want to do something during the holiday season, which is where we're at right now. Director Martin was saying that at other boards that I've been on, when we've done this transaction, usually we make the decision right there, you know, so.
Mhm.
You can.
It could be 3 or 4, who knows how many applicants. And so if we were to not, say we wanted to delay it, and I'm just kind of throwing it out there, because why would you delay it? But you're saying there may be a possibility.
I don't know, I'm saying maybe something will happen that would create a delay.
Yeah.
I think we can make a decision that night. The one I've been involved in, although I didn't like the outcome of it,
Right.
the one I've been involved in, we decided that night. But just in case to fit within that 60-day period we had, is why I was talking about, we have a second opportunity or a second meeting.
So the last opportunity,
you extend it.
the last opportunity we have would be the 22nd?
No, what you basically have is when you hit the 31st of January, you've kind of got your 60 days. You burned it up. What I just asked council was if you do post this to receive it by the 8th, and you would deliberate on the 8th, let's say by the 2nd, if we haven't received any information, what you could do is then just extend the posting and then give yourself some more time.
That was the thought, in case we don't have
Yeah,
applicants.
so we do have some flexibility
Or,
there
we
to
don't
give
have
yourself more
qualified
time.
applicants.
Yeah.
But if Director Hernandez is going to be gone the 22nd, we may want to, you know, think about how we're going to fit that in.
Yeah, so I say, we'll know, if by the 2nd we don't have a lot of response, I think at the meeting, we would repost the notice extending the time frame. The board on the 8th could then pick a different date
Yeah.
that accommodates Director
Yeah.
Hernandez,
Okay.
and then you could deliberate then.
Okay.
I think you've got flexibility
Yeah,
there.
so for
All
the
right,
second,
perfect.
second meeting, we could change the second meeting to
Yeah.
whatever works for you, as long as it's before the first.
Yeah.
Is that Martin?
Yes, Director.
And I don't, maybe it's a legal question. If we have until the 8th, that we can extend the application to that time period anyway, we legally can do that. I sort of side on Director Portal's perspective. I'm imagining if I was in the community, I really wouldn't pay much attention during the holidays, and we're not just talking one holiday, it's Christmas and it's New Year's. So I'm just wondering, would there be any sense in having the applications go a little further to the 6th or something, or the 8th, and then on that 8th meeting, we actually schedule the meeting separately that we are going to select.
Well, I need to let them know in the notice when you will be doing the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we not extend it to take applications until the 6th or I don't know, I don't have a calendar, I'm sorry.
The 6th would be the Monday
only
before.
extends
The
it 3
Monday.
days. Only extends it 3 days.
Well, 3
Right.
days at the 1st of January, to me personally, is when I'm, ready to look at the world again. But I'm just trying to, I'm feeling that if we don't have anybody, I feel even if we do have people on closure of the 2nd, we don't have we haven't really reached the same breadth of people if we had extended it at the beginning to the 8th. That's all I'm trying to say. I'd like it to be open, not that, oh, we only got 2, so we want more than that. I'd like, and then we're gonna extend it again, then we're asking people.
You can always accept them all the way up to the 8th.
I think that's what I'm trying to say, but if that makes us feel crunched as a board member to have the apps in front of us on that day, can we then accept the applications and schedule, whatever you call it, the reappointment meeting for the 12th or something?
Well,
I'm
it's
just
Sunday, but
asking.
the 15th, I was gonna start,
President
Yeah.
Martin?
Yes, thank you very much.
whoever you are. Taking the extra time and having it go to the 8th, I think is fine. If then we do the reappointment meeting on the 15th, which is the following week, that'd give us a week to look at the applications.
My biggest concern is that's when CASA begins, so I don't think you'll have potentially a quorum.
Right.
That's why I wanted to move it to the 22nd. Now, an option, if you don't mind, Director Martin,
Oh, well,
the chair, if
yeah.
you still hold your meetings on the 8th and the 12th, you could call for a special board meeting. I would consider, say, the 13th,
Which is a,
Monday,
Monday.
and then your only item of business would be disappointment.
Yeah.
That's an alternative you have as well.
Well, that works for me, personally.
I like that choice, that's just my opinion. but-
So we're gonna have 3 meetings. We're gonna have a meeting on the 8th.
8th,
A meeting on the 13th just for this,
Special.
yes.
and then that's fine by me.
Then the 22nd. Okay. So we will accept applications up through the 8th. Is that what I understand?
Okay. Sure?
Okay. And then we'll special meeting on the 13th, and then hopefully you'll make a decision on the 13th or the 22nd. You still got a week and a half there to play for, just in case. Okay.
Just in case, so you're not up against a wall.
Yeah,
Something
we still got
unforeseen.
2 weeks to play, just in case something goes sideways on us.
Something unforeseen should happen.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take care of that and file the notice accordingly.
Great, thank you. All right, you have board direction on that, correct?
Yes, that's all I
That's
need.
all you need. Okay, 3.2, ordinance revision for conducting the business of the board. Hernandez?
Yes, I would think that we would want the new person who we appoint involved in this discussion because although we haven't, apparently in my conversations with some of the past board members, the problem that we've just encountered here relative to getting the newest elected board members into a president's position and a four-year term has been a little cumbersome, but that's not happening quite frequently. So I would like to leave this discussion to after we have the new board member appointed and on the board, so we can have a full discussion, and then we can also add perhaps additional information in this policy so that we can figure out who's going to be where and why. So I would prefer to table this until after the 27th, when our board meeting.
Director Evans?
I have a question for you, Director Hernandez. When you say add policy, are you talking about section 19B? You want to add more than the word first in that portion of the policy?
Actually, see, what it doesn't say in there anywhere is how we elect the vice president. Again, we have this traditional arrangement, but it's not clear, is that on or off? And it doesn't say whether it's a rotation or it's an election, and I would like to clarify that so we don't have to bring this up every year as to how this is gonna roll. Personally, that's just today's my discussion.
Director Evans?
Thank you. The way I look at this is, I specifically, when I brought this forward, was addressing the issue of Section 19B, which dealt only with the opportunity for elected directors to have an opportunity to be president in the first term. I feel that's all that we've discussed and all we directed and talked about, and I feel we made a good decision. The new member, although they know they're of equal importance in our decision-making process, because they're an appointee and an appointee actually for a very short term, this particular part doesn't apply to them. So I would prefer that we adopt what we put forward, and if we have policy issues, we bring them forward one at a time specifically, because this is a ordinance that requires a great deal of conversation, obviously, as it did last time. So I think you're right. There is no reference in here to VP, and I think it's important that we come to an agreement as a full board, and at that point, I think the new members should be included. But that's not even an issue that's in this ordinance. VP's not. So I would like to bring it forward at another meeting and say we'll address this ordinance, and we're going to specifically address to be a VP. I think pulling this aside and setting what we've already decided on last time just makes us go back through that whole, again, for nothing. I think we felt pretty comfortable with the first board.
Okay, and I might add that I understand that we're only dealing with that one issue, and it's the word yes. I too have questions regarding this ordinance that we need some changes for. I think you come back for all those. Tonight, I think it was put on here, it's just the word
First.
Just the word first is the only thing we're looking at changing, nothing else. But we can bring it back because there's video things that I've talked about.
Yeah.
Director Podel?
No.
No.
If I might, one of the later items on the agenda is a future workshop for the board to go over the strategic plan. That would probably be a very good topic for the strategic plan discussion. So if you want to adopt this, it gets that ambiguity out of the way tonight. We don't have to get into all the history again, as Director Evans said, and then the board can deal with this at a workshop at a later point.
Does that work for you, just doing the one word?
Pieces of whole, we're gonna get there sooner or later.
So then do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
This is a roll call.
Oh, as a
After
resolution.
you get a motion, second.
Go second. Second. Roll call, please.
This will be ordinance number 190. Director Evans?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Director Portal?
Yes.
Director Martin?
Yes. Thank you very much. Moving on. 3.3, Fats, Oil, and Grease Fog Program Ordinance. Recommendation for staff is to adopt the ordinance. Staff?
Yes, over the past year, as noted on the background introduction, is the district is required to have this program as part of our sewer system management plan that's issued through the state board. One of the items is a fog program. If you do have known fats, oils, and greases that build up, that could potentially cause a problem. Corey Harrell has been working on this for the year. You've had 2 presentations back in June and also in November. The first presentation in June was to introduce the program to the board. The board presented some feedback on looking at how the fee structure would be, the policy, make sure that it's not all stick and no carrot, so it's a fair balanced policy. Mr. Harrell did do an additional presentation to you on November 6th, where we did talk about the final program, which he showed you the outreach information, the pamphlets, how we would go about it, and how we would slowly work into this program. Included in that analysis was a California Proposition 26 review of cost of service benefit, which the board's very familiar with through the last year of all the different studies we've done, to where out of the total program, which is about 219,000-ish, over $200,000 for the total program. About $67,000 is identified as the cost associated with fats, oils, and greases of outreach to the restaurants. As noted, there's a variety of costs from different agencies. We did show that last time with an average of $21.77. Staff recommends a monthly fee at this point of $21, which recovers the cost of inspection in the program from the users. We do not anticipate when the program first goes into effect charging them from day one. This is going to be a fairly long program. You saw the outreach that we were looking at, sending letters, work to the chamber, issue stuff, meet with them, talk about them, get them into the process, and then start working into it. The ordinance you have before you is modeled after a compendium of multiple agencies, tried to take the best out of each one without reinventing the wheel. It's a fairly lengthy ordinance. I believe this will probably come back to you after a year once we found that some of it's not functional or needs to be strengthened or lightened, whatever the case may be. So what you have before you is the ordinance in the program, including the monthly cost of $21 per food establishment. And staff recommends the board adopt the ordinance.
Well, as a person who spends a great deal of his time on compliance issues, I hate to see this coming on one direction. As a person who is responsible for sanitation, I think it's probably long overdue. So I'm glad to see this. I know a lot of hard work has been put into it, and I know we've got a long way to go. But I would like to hear more about how it's going to be instituted. Because this, when I was reading how this was being implemented, and I know you're trying to cover all the bases, and you just made it clear that you'd be coming back with changes, as you see it fitting the community, so to speak. Because it talked about you're going to have to come up with permits, right? I mean, that's essentially what you're doing. Let me just go over a few things I was just making notes on. So it's talking about permits, certification of services, verification of work done. It's almost paralleling part of what I have to do is, I have a responsibility with elevator certification. I have a responsibility with hazmat business plans and things of that nature. And so I'm trying to kind of fit that in my head on how this would fit a format of that similarity. Is that clear at all?
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is, like you said, we're trying to start this slow. And what I'm doing is, I'm not bringing a permit in and do it. Some agencies do it, some agencies don't. The majority of them do a permit, but what they do is they charge for that permit too on top of the fee itself. So like I said, we're trying to take smaller steps in implementing this program itself. So like you said, I'm not requiring off the bat a permit, say if they haven't filled out a permit, look at that or whatever. I'm physically going to go out to the site, look at it, talk to them, explain the program, why we're doing it, how come, and start it that way. So as of right now, I'm not going to implement a permit program. I'm going off the ordinance itself to have the backing of what I'm going to be doing.
I'm sorry, when you gave that answer, did you mean we for the I?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, he is it.
But he's still an employee of yours?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to make sure he's working for the water district. Sounded like he had his own business.
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
Yeah. Corey, and that's
We as
part of.
Vallecitos is what I'm
Yeah, I heard it as we Vallecitos.
Yeah.
He was saying I, he wasn't saying we.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, Corey is is both the writer of the ordinance, plus he's the enforcement of the policy. And again, like I said, a lot of it we may find as we're getting through it is the introductory process, to talk to them, find out what it is, and explain what the whole program is. And what we're hoping is we'll find a lot of the records that are necessary to show compliance already exist within the business. So we don't have to reinvent, say you need to do this, say you need to do that, when there may be a format that's already out there that we can just adopt and use.
Are you finished?
No, not yet, just one. So I think that's great, and I think your approach, and I really think that, as I was saying previously, is long overdue. But I hope we do this, and not that I doubt we wouldn't, do it in a professional presentation, have professional appearances, a presence, when we go, and that we're there to more as to provide assistance rather than to catch people doing something wrong. It sounds like you're starting that way because you're starting at the base and you're trying to first of all put out the education about it.
And that was discussed, and that's what Vallecitos is planning on doing,
Great.
is more education.
Thanks.
And the timing as to when we would actually tell them they need to start paying the fee. When would that happen along your timeline of slowly introducing yourself in the process and all the rest?
I probably have at least 2.5, 3 months of introducing the program to the restaurants, establishing who's gonna be in part. I have a overall list of like 255 restaurants, you know, that's from delis all the way to restaurants and fast foods and all that. So by the time I go through, figure out exactly who's gonna be in the program, I got 2.5 to 3 months. So that puts us right around April, you know, 1st of April, right around there, end of May. I'm sorry, beginning of May. And so we're looking right around there. So I'm not sure about the, you know, the payment, maybe, you know, July 1st as that comes through, that would be efficient, I would think.
And is your first step to send out a mass mailing, letting people know that you're going to be showing up, or are you just going to knock on the door and say?
No, I actually have a list of all the
Okay.
restaurants, the account holders, so
Yeah.
I'll be actually writing, I actually have that are almost complete. I'll be actually mailing a letter out to them,
Good.
the restaurants explaining the program, what we're gonna be doing, and also the account holders.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. My question is, when we do this, don't you let everyone know, are you planning to focus on those who are more prone to be putting more fog in the water, I guess?
Yeah, it's gonna be the high user restaurants
That
and
will
stuff
be
like that.
your
The
focus
restaurants that
first?
have the grease interceptors, grease traps, and keeping an eye on that, making sure they're getting clean what they need to do and implementing the best management practices. So it's the
Okay.
high volume restaurants as well.
That'll be the first
Yes.
target. And then secondly, are you, I know at some point we're in the ordinance, I believe, I might be getting mixed up with your report, but we were talking about after we've established the not density or whatever it is, the amount they put in, they would be charged differently?
That's, if I might on that,
Please, yeah.
what we were hoping is when the cost of service study was done, that we talked about separately, one of the recommendations was over a 3-year period. The district has never done it. Some agencies have finally gone down that path. Was right now what the cost of service study says everybody pays the same sewer rate regardless of the strength of sewage. Okay, so the BOD, which is what we pay for biochemical oxygen demand, that's what we pay for at Encina. So our sewer charges are averaged across the board for everybody. So what the proposal in the cost of service study and what we talked to the board about was we didn't want to jump into something like that right off the bat because it's a lot of work. So what we would do is we would look at people like Orange County Sanitation, Los Angeles Sanitation, other agencies that have done a lot of sampling. We would use that information over the next 2 or 3 years to see if the sewage strength coming out of restaurants, coming out of donut places, whatever the case may be, is following those strength guidelines. If it is, that would lead the board 3 years from now, was the schedule we looked at with the board, of considering that type of billing. What we're hoping with this program is if Corey is successful in the whole program to where fats, oils, and greases are not dumped into the sewer, and it's just the normal waste that comes out, the district won't have to make that decision down the road of billing by strength because we have been proactively removed the culprit.
Okay.
So this program, what it could do is actually prevent the need from doing all of that additional work 3 years from now. Now, that doesn't take people like Hollandia Dairy, Armor Light, or Signet like that off the table because they have specific discharge wastes that they have to comply with. So the intent of this program is to stop all the fogs from coming into the sewer. If it's not coming into the sewer, we don't have to worry about the strength of the sewer because it will be so close in nature between all of the businesses, we won't have to face that distinction.
Well, I applaud that, and I hope you're successful at that, Corey. Actually, I think the density fee would be very difficult. But I guess what I was really trying to get at is, right now, the $21 would be the same for every single unit, whatever the word is.
Yes.
Okay. So if I had a small little restaurant versus a big restaurant, I'd still pay the 21. And is there a way to at least look at or consider between now and when we start charging, the same as we do with the water? I mean, I know we don't have small meters and big meters for this, but is there a way to calculate so that the smaller businesses may be paying a slightly less rate than someone we know is already producing more? And that's really has probably nothing to do with ordinance, it just goes through my mind that it seems a bit unfair, although we all need to pay for it to have the enforcement done.
We're constrained a little bit for Prop 26, so we would do, and we've already done a cost of service, kind of a miniature cost of service study with a smaller scope. And if that, some of the smaller FSEs won't have the requirements for the same grease traps or receptacles that the bigger ones do, so they might actually be more of a burden in re-inspections and things like that. So it's hard to tell. But once the program's going, we would be able to do a more precise cost of service study, and maybe there is a difference, but we can't do it just based on they're smaller, give them a break. We have to actually have, it has to be by the cost of service study by mandate, by state legislation.
Thank you, I remember now, we talked about that.
Yeah, probably
Had the
after a year,
discussion,
you
and I
might be
forgot.
able to do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I answered my question.
And if I could add one more portion, I forgot to answer it into your question, Director Evans, is Encina, I believe, just tomorrow, is going to approve the enhanced yada, 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 where they're going to build the design-build facility where they will take the fogs that are generated within our service area. And was timed kind of with what we're doing with our program to coincide with the Encina program. And what that will do is come up with a list of preferred vendors that we know, if we're doing this, haulers rather, that they will collect it the right place, they take it to the right place. We know what's being dumped is fogs, not septic, so that the people that do have to have it, Corey can give them a better resource. They know where it's going, and I think it will be more cost competitive as well.
And when is that program going to be in effect?
They are starting the design-build construction within I believe, a month, and I think they're talking between 3 and 6 months for construction.
Yeah. A couple things I'd like to say about it. Corey did a great job in every presentation. I really appreciate it. And I think it's well needed out in the community. I think it needs to spread to more places. And I'm assuming you're saying restaurants, but you mean all food service.
Food service establishments, yeah, it's gonna be from.
It's gonna be a
high
big
volume.
bill for the school system.
Yes, exactly, and that's what I'm looking at, is actually, the hotels we have around
Catering,
here, catering, serving,
trucks,
yes.
Yeah.
the whole thing.
The whole
Yes,
ball wax.
yeah.
I guess my only problem with it is the financial side. And let me explain why. It's a brand-new program, $22 a month, $460 a year to a small business person is relevant. It's a number, and the first time you meet them, hi, I'm from the water district, I'm here to help you, $22, thank you very much. On the grand scheme of things, the sewers are everyone's property, and they're everyone's to take care of. I guess I'm trying to look at it like the rain barrel program that we just did. The district paid for those rain barrels, and although all the ratepayers paid for them, they went to the 100 people that were signed up, which is okay. They're great. Same thing with this. It's like, well, those are few using it in the beginning. There should be more. I'd rather see the program working. I'd like to see us install the program and waive the fee side for at least a year until we can get a report back from you how well it's doing, if it's been accepted, if it's working, rather than, and when Encina tells them where they can get rid of their stuff, when this program is developed and functioning, to put in the financial side. I think if we weren't gonna put in for 3 or 4 months anyhow, it's only extending another 8 months. And it's like, how much does that really come out to in the grand scheme of things?
Well, what I would suggest, if the board wants to do that, it would be to adopt the ordinance as presented, but suspend the fee collection for 6 months. What that would do is would allow Corey and the time of work that he has to do, he'll have a better idea. Does it take 20 minutes to deal with the hamburger place and 2 hours to deal with the restaurant? So maybe within a 6-month period, we'll have a better breakdown of his timesheet that would give the board more information.
Perfect motion. I make the motion. Seconded by Director Evans. And?
I have a question. What kind of question? How do you see this dovetailing with the Department of Health? because the Department of Health generally doesn't go that deep, so to speak. You know, they'll go to maybe the surface, but
Yeah.
not to an interceptor. How do you see yourself or our department, Vallecitos Water District, dovetailing with the Department of
Not
Health?
much with the county itself, it's gonna be more the city. The city's actually kinda excited about the program itself because they actually do stormwater inspections.
Yes.
And we can work together on that and, you know, possibly down the road, work out some type of agreement of some sort of, you know, assisting each other on it itself. But the city, I know, City of San Marcos is very excited about it. The people that I've talked to.
Yeah, all the health department does is physical inspection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They don't do
foodborne-
anything beyond that.
Foodborne illnesses.
But they have a tendency to kind of snoop around a little bit, so you never know.
And that's kind of what with the city, what I would be doing, because I'd be doing more inspections than the city would be doing, and if I would see something that's, you know, gonna interfere with I think it's called urban runoff program or something like that, then I'd be, have a contact and talk to them and let them know what's going on. So,
Well, as we get further down the line, or whenever you'd like to, I'll help you whichever way I can with the school district. But it's interesting you talk about stormwater because that would tie into another program that I'm in charge of, so it's all good.
Yeah, and we anticipated, once the board approved this, Corey would be going out to the school district, because you did want a presentation, and also to the city, to let them know what we'd be doing. But we didn't want to move forward until we actually had a program.
Well, another part of that is you're actually, not you, but it's in the paperwork here about garbage disposal.
yeah.
You know, about having a way of not allowing them.
Mhm.
That's interesting on how you would do that, but, you know, it may be just something that we start educating, and that goes into architects and planners and everything else.
Yeah, and actually, we go off to California Plumbing Code, and so does the City of San Marcos, City of Carlsbad, City of Escondido, all the agencies around us go off of that. And I can't remember the exact year or whatever, but they've been banned for the California Plumbing Code for at least probably 8 to 10 years. So it's the older
Wow.
establishments that actually have them, and that's what, you know, talking with the other agencies that have the program like we do, is they give a certain timeline, and it's usually the older restaurants itself that have them, and they give them a period to remove them.
Yeah, and they haven't unfortunately moved to residential, excuse me.
Director Hernandez,
Thank you.
you have more to add to this.
Yes.
There's a motion and a second.
I do add, just as a comment relative to moving towards the residential garbage disposals, the elimination of, because, again, that's far larger proportion of the stuff going into our sewer than I believe restaurants are.
Do we
And
want to
that's
talk
the
about
issue.
third world countries?
If we get that, if our district expands that far, yes, but not till then.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone? No. everyone said
This is an ordinance, we do
aye.
have.
Roll call vote. Whoa.
The ordinance on Director Evans,
Yes.
Director Hernandez,
Yes.
Director Puddle,
Yes.
Director Martin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Proposed investment policy resolution.
Yes.
Recommendation, adopt the resolution.
Chair Martin and fellow
Give that to Tom.
distinguished board members, we have before you on page 54 of your board packet, a staff report on changes we make. We've made, proposing this year for the 2014 investment policy. Every year, on a calendar basis, we present, and it's by ordinance, actually, by policy, that we present. Even if there's no changes, we still present it, the policy to you, so you're aware of it. This year, what our finance manager, John Fusco, had done is consulted with California Municipal Treasurers Association, and it was free. You know, they put out a lot of information, that's best management practices and things like that. And a lot of the things, the 4 changes that were suggested, mostly we already do it. It's just kind of memorializing what this is and actually putting it in a policy. And we thought that was a good idea to actually state what we do. And it's those bullets you see in the middle of that page, 54 in your packet, actually stating the ethics and conflicts of interest that we've been doing. So you see a paragraph added on that. Delivery versus payment. Means basically that we're exchanging money. We don't have to, it's a third party that's overseeing the exchange of our money for a security. So it's kind of like an internal control. These are very common. Every agency that manages a portfolio does DVP, delivery versus payment. We have done it, but we just don't have it in our policy, so it's probably a good idea to memorialize that as well. The one thing that we hadn't done, we have 3 brokers that we deal with, and many of the policies out there say you should maintain financial data on each one and revisit the financial data and the credibility of these, the creditworthiness of these brokers once a year. So we've, in preparation for these proposed changes, we've actually done that. Now we have the financial data that they refer to here for each of our brokers that we deal with. And then the other one, again, things that we've always been doing on reporting, but we've actually put it in here, and that's the auditor. Every year looks at our investment portfolio and our investment policy too, and edits or audits for compliance with it. No other changes, nothing, like I said, of substance, things we're already doing, but we just wanted to memorialize what we do and put in policy. And be more consistent with other agencies and with the guidance from California Municipal Treasurers Association. So with that, I've asked that you consider and adopt the annual investment policy, but I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Tom.
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay, no conversation? Roll call vote?
This will be resolution 1436. Director Evans?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Director Total?
Yes.
Director Martin?
Yes.
May I make a comment? Okay.
Certainly.
I would just like to compliment the WG staff on this part, because after coming back from one of the last conferences, I realized how well run and well done our finances and investment are, and I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Next resolution, revised document, record retention policy resolution.
Yes, resolution number 1304 is the current policy that the board has in place with respect to records retention, formal policy. This was adopted back in 2008, kind of in response to a spat of Public Record Act requests, and then guidance on what we do for documents, how long we retain them. What you have before you today is a much shortened policy. The old policy was 29 pages. What we had. The reason it was 29 pages, it quoted chapter and verse of each government code, including the citations right in the policy. So we basically took those out. I worked with counsel, provided him 2 examples that I received from other agencies. One, I think, was the city of Goleta. They just had a nice format. It was simple to read and easy to follow. Counsel went through that. So what you have before you for 2 parts of discussion here. One is a new policy that has all of the same components as far as how long we have to keep records, whether it be human resources, general counsel, correspondence with the board, risk management. We added provisions in here this time that did not used to be in there, which was associated with operations department. The operations department, based on their certifications, they have to keep them for a certain amount of time. We have to keep certain records based on our permits for the treatment plant, based on our water permit, based on all these different things that we have. Those were not included in there. And what we had out in the warehouse was probably still do, several hundred boxes of charts, pieces of paper, things that really have no value because the system is no longer in place. So we did clarify that. And if you would go to page, it's page 64 in the packet, is actually page 3 of the actual policy. This was something the board had asked me to bring back. So the first 2 items, board correspondence, that didn't change. What the CU means, there's a table, but it's current plus 7 years. That's what's required by the government code reference to the right.
Where's the table? Do we have it in here?
Yes, it's on.
Oh, it's on page 2 of the ordinance, which would be page 63. 63. At the very top, you'll see the.
I somehow missed that, and as I was looking, I'm going, well,
The hell CU mean?
I don't know what T means.
Yeah, current, and that defines the document, current year, active, after audit. So those are the acronyms that are provided by the state that we use as part of our policy. So the direction I had from the board back when we were talking about recording the board meetings or anything else is the second and third item. The third item was added. The second item was what's already there. The government code requires current plus 30 days of audio recordings. Again, that is a minimum requirement. And then the second item we did add, because we've subsequently started recording the meetings, is the government code requires taped, videotape of current plus 6 months. So the ordinance was provided to you, ordinance or resolution, what is it? Resolution was provided to you today with just purely the government citation in it. And I did reference in the staff report that I know there was some board discussion that takes place. We do still use audio tape because of the way we do minutes and everything else, so I don't suggest making any changes on that one. And then any discussion the board has on how long you would like us to keep the video. And then if there's a change, whoever makes the resolution first and second, if the motion could include any change to the policy, we'll change it accordingly.
Okay, discussion? Yes, Director.
I have had an opportunity to do this, but for the city's documents relative, and that little disc and the foot pedal and everything, we have one in our office. And 30 days seems like a very short period of time to capture that, if I'm reading this correctly, on an issue that may come up a month later or 2 months, and then you have to, in our case, you have 6 months to go through a video and just grind your way through. So I would like to change that audio portion to 6 months as well. I think that's not a big space take, it doesn't take up a lot of space, but I would like to see that to be a 6-month timeline.
Director Evans?
Actually, I read through this fairly thoroughly, looking at the timelines, and I realized most things stay on this list for 3 to 7, some 10 years. And I understand the issue of space, but for the purpose of being in sync with everything else, I mean, I think if we're going to keep public outreach materials for 5 years, I feel like we should keep our audio tapes and our videotapes for 5 years as well. And I would like to see that archivally searchable on the website, at least for, a few years back. I know if you go to some websites, you can, queue up the prior years. 6 months to me is much better than 30 days, but I really feel like it's critical that we extend it, and 5 seems to be fairly common on the list. That's why 5 years. That's just my suggestion.
I did hear, and I need some clarification from our IT people, that the video does take up a great deal of space.
Very big.
And to keep 5 years of video, that, I don't know, I don't know how big is, so I would like to get some information on how big is.
Okay, I'd have to get that. With the way we actually do it right now is the audio we could keep, and I think that could be a relatively small data file that can be searchable on our website. Say go back a year, we have a rolling year, something like that possibly. The video right now, it's actually kept, and we put a link directly to YouTube. So it's actually not stored on our website. It's stored through a link, taking it to YouTube. We can do it free, and we don't have to maintain the storage and the capacity and make our system bigger. I don't know how long they will allow us to keep, time-wise or size-wise. If the board would, again, if you want a little more information on that to get a little better guideline, I can bring it back, and the board can consider this later.
I would just like to say that I happen to agree with Director Evans. When I first realized, when I first realized we were only keeping our audio for 30 days, I was absolutely shocked. And then I was explained to my counsel that was the bare minimum from the state. And it was like, why not keep the tapes longer? They don't take up a lot of space. It's not really a space issue. It's more of a, well, to me, it's more of an open thing. I think 5 years is a bare minimum to keep either audio or video. But I don't think you need both.
That's why I'm suggesting audio for a much shorter duration, and then keep the video for a longer, if that's the board's pleasure.
Yes, that's what I would suggest, is that the audio, because the video is the most concise, and people can actually watch that versus You know, people that aren't trained in listening to tapes, it's very difficult to listen to tapes. I tried it.
And I would take absolutely opposite view, only because in order to view a video and then try to scan through to get to where you think this may be, unless there's a way of, on the video, doing a search and go to 3.1, it is more cumbersome than on the audio, where in fact you can find out the footage, go watch the meter and go, 300 feet, that's where it was stopped at. So I would take the opposite view that, quite frankly, the video would be the first I'd let go and keep the audio for, if it's 5 years or whatever, so you could just grind through it.
Okay, Director Evans?
Thank you. I tend to agree with Director Hernandez on that, and partly because if we had the ideal video system and we were doing close-ups on people and we knew we were collecting the sound, I would say the video is going to be better than the audio. But what we have, and the way I've seen it, and just that I have difficulty hearing my fellow board members up here, I feel like the best opportunity of collecting it at this time is the audio, not the video. And I would propose a motion that we go with the 5 years on both at this time, knowing full well that if you come back and we're told they're only going to store it for 3 years or 2 years, we then have to decide later. But at this point, it's not an issue. We can also come back and say our video has improved and we can do some comparison of what's available at a later date. But I wouldn't like to just put this on hold at this time. If possible, I'd just like to say, I'm picking 5 because it seems somewhere in between the numbers that are there, but most everything is over.
So point of clarification, Director Evans, is your motion to approve the records retention policy as presented with those 2 changes?
As 5 years, yes, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so good. Thank you.
Have a motion, looking for a second?
No second.
There's a motion and a second, and one conversation is, and I agree with you, I think 5 years and 5 years is good for now. Technology is catching up so quickly, and I know any day now we've been promised we're gonna have lights up here and better video by staff. I know they're working diligently on it, so I think that grade will change relatively shortly.
And if I could, on that note, we just approved the RFP for design services for the boardroom, the training room, and all the conference rooms, because it's an upgrade that's needed. Keep in mind, we've been here 18 years. We designed this place 20 years ago.
Sure.
So that's part of the proposal that'll be coming in. The intent is to actually have the RFP completed with design in March. That will actually come through the budget process for the board next year, which will be including all new screens, the new things, the monitors, the whole ball of wax.
Great.
So a year from now, you may be doing the Emmys.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or the Oscars at least.
Or the Oscars, whatever the case may be.
Motion and a second,
This is a roll call.
and this is a roll call vote.
This will be resolution 1437. Director Evans?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Director Pollock?
Yes.
Director Martin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving along, 3.6, strategic plan and business plan update. Staff.
Yes, I gave you a fair amount of background there, just again, because we do have a board change, new board members that were not present when we did the last process. Beginning in early 2011, we went through a very lengthy, you have a copy of it in front of you, which is both the strategic plan as well as the business plan. We went through a very lengthy process with the employees as well as the board. We looked at everything from the mission statement, the vision, the rules of how the board and the employees all operate with respect to, respect and common courtesy, kind of the overall guidance of where the board wants to go in identifying the strategic focus areas. It was quite a process, and I think I mentioned to the board before, it was done in a completely separate process with all of the employees from every level all the way through management, and done separately with the board. And at the end, when the workshop took place over at the McMahon House, the board's final focus areas were identical to what the employees and the other process came up with. There was only one that was in a different order, what it showed is a very cohesive consideration of what the long-term issues are. The business plan that was attached, there are a significant amount of goals in there. Some of them are ongoing, some have been completed, some we haven't touched because we probably don't need them. There are probably too many of those individual items in the business plan. But again, when we adopted this last year, when the board went through it and adopted it, we knew this was the first very big strategic plan we've ever done in this fashion. The way it used to work was a consultant came in, the board sat around the table, and we had different colors on the wall, and the board would go over and put little stickies on which one they liked best. We sang Kumbaya and made s'mores. And then whoever got the most votes, that became the topic of how things were pursued. We didn't go that route, we went a completely different route. I think it was a very efficient one. But long story short, what the board said was when you get to the end of the first year, we want to sit down and do this again. Not the whole process by any means, but sit down, look at the strategic plan, which is what you have before you, which is the vision, the mission, where we want to go, the focus areas, and see if what the board thought were the key areas are still the key areas. Do we need to change them, reprioritize them, add them, take away, whatever the case may be? And that was the direction the board gave. So what you have is the report, I think it's through September, October. Obviously the business plan will be updated again in January when we're through December. But what I'd recommend in here to comply with what the board had directed was to consider, again, bringing in the consultant that did this, having probably a half day to maybe 6 hours. I don't really see anything longer than that needed. You'll have the document completed before then, but in 2 steps. What we did last time, and it worked out really well so that everybody knew what the consultant knew what the issues of the board was. She came in, she met with each of the board members individually. That might take 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it took, it took. That was done ahead of time. Based upon that information that was garnered from the consultant, she clarified her approach. And then we had a workshop to discuss all these items. We did have it off-site. I think that was a very good venue to do it in. Have made contact with that consultant, continues to do the same work, doing it for several agencies right now, similar process, that have kind of now adopted this. I think they're working with Helix right now. She's working Helix through their strategic plan. So what I have before you today is consideration of doing this. Again, what I'd recommend here would be to have the interviews sometime probably in January, whenever it's convenient for the board, and then look at the latter part of February to actually have the workshop. And with that, I'd take any direction from the board.
No, I think we'll work on some dates for February, what works for everybody.
If that works for the board, like I said, what I'll do is come back with some actual dates and give you some timelines that we're looking for the workshop, and we'll start to narrow it down if that works, and then we will start scheduling individual appointments. Probably in the second week, as you say, Director Evans, you're not even getting through the New Year's until the second week after the first, so we'll look at scheduling individual appointments, and then we'll determine what's best for a workshop. If the board's good with that, I'll move forward.
Yeah, and I know you'll do this automatically, but the second week we have, I guess the third week, the UWI Springwater Conference.
Yeah, we'll look at the calendar of all the conferences to make sure we can fit one in there. And then we have to check with the university too to make sure the room's available and all that.
That was it.
Okay, that's all I need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. End of action items. Reports, general manager report.
We took care of all the business items. I already mentioned that we're doing the workshop. There are no items. The board has historically not considered a second board meeting in December if there's, just to get through the holidays and everything else. There are no items that we have coming forward. Based upon that, I would suggest that we just post there's no need for the meeting on the 18th, and we will not have the next meeting until next year.
District Legal Counsel.
Yes, there's a change coming in conflict of interest laws in January that's rather interesting. For those of you on the board, and I think that applies to every one of you, you've been through AB 1234 training at least once in your professional careers, and you're familiar with the dichotomy in conflict of interest regulation and conflict of interest enforcement. The Fair Political Practices Commission has traditionally looked at both reporting requirements for public officials and also weighted on enforcement issues as it relates to participating in decisions that affect material financial interest of board members. But also traditionally, the FPPC has not been involved in examining conflicts of interest that arise under Government Code 1090, which pertains to contracts in which a public official has a financial interest. Coming January 1st, thanks to AB 1090, which was passed by both houses and signed by the governor in late September, the FPPC will now be given, at least in certain cases, some preliminary jurisdiction on bringing administrative enforcement actions premised on Government Code 1090, so dealing with contracts. And the FPPC will also be allowed in certain situations which they were not previously allowed to do, provide advisory opinions to public agencies on 1090 issues. In the past, an agency or the head of an agency or a public official with an agency could go to the Fair Political Practices Commission and ask them, give them the facts of a given situation and ask them, does this present a conflict or a situation in which I should, as a member, not participate in? But the FPPC would not and did not weigh in on 1090 issues. That was seen as primarily the province of prosecutorial authorities, the DA's office, the Attorney General, and so forth. What the Fong bill will do, what 1090 will do when it comes into play, and it'll add 1097.1 to the government code, so right there in that same section, it will allow the FPPC some limited jurisdiction. If it works out, it probably will be expanded to allow the commission to actually engage in some of the enforcement practices related to government contracts. Very interesting change that'll take effect on January 1. If anyone would like a copy of the text of the law, I can provide it to you. Just let me know, and we'll get that through you. And that concludes my report for the meeting.
We'll get a layman's version of the text. Something you can
Thank you
understand.
very much. Very nice time. Thank you.
Thank you. At least you got the shortened version.
You got the shortened version of it, yeah.
No one fell asleep? You all right? San Diego County Water Authority, Director Evans.
Thank you. Actually, the San Diego County Water Authority, as far as the board in general, has taken December off, but the litigation going on with MWD is still occurring, and we just recently had a hearing, and the court case will be moving forward on December 17th and supposedly finishing on December 23rd. So they're going to be working right up till Christmas Day on that. And the judge, you're certainly welcome to look on the media clips. I know you probably already do, but there's a lot of interesting things coming out in the media clips that relate to this. Also, you're probably aware, we're definitely going into a dry year. Ask Santa for water.
Thank you very much. Encino Wastewater Authority, Director Pope.
PFC met on November 26th, and so that was the
PFC.
PFC, yes. Didn't I say PFC?
What's PFC?
I'm sorry?
PFC.
Yes.
What is it?
Policy and Finance.
Policy and Finance Committee, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, the Policy and Finance Committee met on the 26th, which was the day after our great board presentation on our comprehensive annual financial report, of which the next morning I woke up to another report, which was put out by the same company, and they did a fine job. So that's what we did. We reviewed the fiscal year 2013 comprehensive annual financial report, and then the resolution 2013-06 established board of directors and committee meeting dates, of which we postponed until we get the committees together. That's it.
And we have our board meeting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you have a report as well? You both go to the board meeting?
Yes, yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on two different committees.
Two different committees. So you have a committee report that you're...
The capital committee, likewise, we see some of the same things that are on the policy committee. So the year-end report, and we approved the fuel. Can't remember the second part of that. Fuel and
It's the enhanced fuel,
Grease and oil.
grease and oil thing.
grease and oil. It's the component
Yeah.
to capture more energy.
I forget the name of it.
Yes.
And just as a question to staff, should we have on, under Encino Wastewater Authority, should we have both committees, or they just pipe up when it happens?
We could add them as subcategories.
Okay, I just thought, because they're both members, they do different committees.
Sure.
Thank you. other business, unless the board meeting is scheduled.
Director, sir,
Sorry?
4.5.
Oh, yes, sorry. Director's report on travel conference seminars attended. We'll start with Director Hernandez.
The two parts, the groundwater committee for Aqua met the day before the conference started, and their big push was data, data, data. Get data. And I know
Are the engineers?
lots of them.
There's no
And
data.
scientists and, you know, and then fools like me who really just want to have more groundwater. I don't know, Dennis, if we're collecting any data. I know we're working with the North San Diego County group in identifying our aquifer, but I don't know if we have had data from the past that they are looking for, or if we're updating that data.
We will obtain the data that we're allowed, that we can find.
Yeah.
We have no standing in law to obtain private data from any well holders. The only thing we can get is any drill logs that were the original drilling reports. That's the only source of data we have. There's no current legal requirement for them to turn that over, and that's the reason there is no data. They protect that more than they protect their social security number.
Yeah, they're working hard, and I think they're going to achieve it because of the great demand on groundwater up in the Central Valley that is being overused, and so it's coming our way, so we're going to somehow gather more data. That was the groundwater committee, and then of course Aqua itself, there was a number of great sessions, and what I got, the high points were storage. There's the great demand for smaller storage items, which we'll talk about the strategy meeting about the San Marcos Lakes here in San Marcos that I've talked about for now a couple of years. And then, of course, Tom held an outstanding and all-inspiring section, and I've named it Everything You Wanted to Know About Funding But Didn't Care. And but there was quite a bit of information, and it was well worth the go.
Okay. I also went to that same conference. And I went to half of Tom's seminar. And when I woke up, I went to someone else's. So.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing more boring than finance, except for very legal jargon, which finance almost is.
See, engineer comes to the top.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Give me an engineer any day in that case. But I attended the conference, and great educational. Thank you very much to the board, to the ratepayers. The JPI spent some time on the power of pooling. Also through JPI, we had one class that was half a day that explained the new Federal Health Care Act in terms that even I could understand. So in that 1 3-hour thing, I completely understand it, and I know it has no effect on the water district, which is good, but I do know what it does pertain to. And like it or not, it's here, you know, so all the slurs we can do to it, which is probably what they did about Social Security back in the day, any social thing that happens. But it was very understandable, and I was very happy for that. Also, changing workplace leadership, power of pooling. There were just a number. Every day was packed. You could go to any conference. And Tom, I really did appreciate yours. I'm just kidding. He brings humor. He's the only moderator that has any humor in the place. And for a bean counter, that's pretty good.
Nobody gets it.
Yeah, nobody gets it. Except he's up there cackling at his jokes, and we're going, huh? But that was excellent, so I want to thank you very much. That's my report on that. I also have a question, because I thought on our agenda we had a place after after other business for commentary. Wasn't there a place that we had for that? And I just don't see this time, or am I wrong?
You know what happened is we modified 5.1 and we changed the title. That was an inadvertent change. You are correct.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
can have.
You can still add something
We
if
can
you-
have a 5.2.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there any other comments or seminars anyone wants to talk about? No? Great. Hearing none. Board schedule for January, we've gone through that, gave direction. We're all comfortable with that, with the opening. And on the commentary, I just have but one thing that I want to bring up, and I brought up at the last meeting, but I want to make sure it goes on record and it happens. After I went to the Special District Leadership Academy, which, wow, again, chock full of information and learned a lot more. One of the things they really pushed on was board's fiduciary responsibility. And although I've been an active role in government in many years, I didn't realize that I needed to be more active than I was, especially when it comes to money, finances, auditing, things like that. So when at the last meeting on a Friday, we received the audited budget for us to recommend, and we did. And I would just like to ensure that the board has more of an active policy in the future with that, of getting the, actually, again, got this from the leadership, that actually when they're audited, they have to work with our staff very closely to get all the information. But they do work for the board. And there should be some type of conversation between the board and them as to what the board is expecting, as well as staff is what they're expecting. But there should be some interaction, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, as far as little fine points they might want to know or something, because again, and we have the best staff in the universe, best bean counters, best staff. But still, we have the fiduciary responsibility to check and make sure.
Along that note, there is what they call an introductory meeting and process that we do have every year. Again, I can only go back to historical process. Director Hernandez was the chair. And so every year, they do have an obligation. They meet with the management, and they meet with the basic team that will do it, but they meet with the representative of the board. In the past, the board's representative has been the chair. We sit down, they go through about a 2-hour meeting. They talk about what the purpose of the audit is, what they look at, how they work independent of staff, and they work on behalf of the board. They ask a series of questions. Are you aware of this? What is the board looking about? Has there been any significant board policy change? So that process is already there. It's an interactive process is what they call it. The difference is historical has been the chair. So what it sounds like is either a committee of the chair, a committee of the board, or potentially, I've never seen it, be honest, with any agency to where the full board does it. It could be a committee of two, which would be the finance committee.
Could be a standing finance.
Could be a standing finance committee that would do that instead.
Or it could be an ad hoc committee, but I don't know, I think we all share in that fiduciary responsibility up here, so we all should be able to have some input as to, again, who does it, that we're comfortable with them.
Sure.
They're not doing it for too many years. And there's just more board involvement in that, because that's a huge responsibility for us.
I think next year when we start getting closer to the process, we'll see how the board wants to come up with it.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
This thing is great.
Oh, yeah, the calendar, that's the calendar that comes out of all the winners for all the different agencies for the North County calendar.
Can we get more of these?
Sure.
Talk with Diane.
Yeah, let Diane know, and we'll either have them at the next board meeting or mail them to you, whatever.
How does this get distributed to other?
Each agency that participates, I can't remember how many months each of us get, if we get 1 month or 2 months of the winner, that's the first place for ourselves. I don't remember how many it is, but then they distribute those to each of the participating agencies. How many we get, I don't know, but I know we get a lot of them.
Okay.
And then we put them at the front counter
Yeah.
for people to pick up. We give them to the board, employees get
Well,
them.
like we talked before, there's good places with the city, maybe with the school district, where we can put them out, get some notification.
Great stocking stuffer.
And what Director Portal was speaking about was the 2014 calendar, which is the front is great, H2O. Don't let water become extinct. That's a very cool thing. Yeah, great.
Yes, I wanted to thank the board members for changing the meeting to today. I totally appreciate that. And I also wanted to wish everyone a very happy, peaceful, and loving holiday season. And if I may, I would also just like to say on the record that I was saddened to get Betty Ferguson's resignation, and I would like to wish her fast recovery in her health issues. So thank you.
Thank you. And with that, adjourn the meeting.